let us now discuss the important contemporaries of Chaucer. Now, in my previous video, I discussed some important historical events of the age of Chaucer, that is the 14th century. I also discussed the literary tendencies of the age of Chaucer, and also I tell you that there were four important contemporaries of Chaucer: John Wycliffe, John Gower, William Langland, and Sir John Mandeville. Now, before you study Chaucer, you please make a survey of the contemporaries of Chaucer, so you will have the basic understanding of the poetry of Chaucer. Now, coming to John Wycliffe. Who was John Wycliffe? Now, he was basically, I had told you in my previous video regarding the Lollard movement, John Wycliffe was a religious reformer, and he was a translator of the Bible. This is one major contribution of Wycliffe. Now, he was a popular teacher at Oxford. Now, when you read Wycliffe, then you find out that he was against the ecclesiastical court. He is popularly known as the founder of English prose and the real originator of European Protestantism. Now, this you will keep in your mind. Now, throughout his writings, Wycliffe appeals to Scripture as the primary and supreme authority in all matters of controversy. And he is rightly called the morning star of the Reformation. Reformation movement you will study later, but whenever this phrase comes, who is the called morning star of the Reformation, so we always tell the name of Wycliffe. Now, his great work, which earned him his title of Father of English Prose, is the translation of the Bible. Wycliffe himself translated the Gospels and much more of the New Testament, and the rest was finished by his followers, especially by Nicholas of Hereford. Now, these translations were made from the Latin Vulgate. You will just remember the name, Latin Vulgate, not from the original Greek and Hebrew. So Wycliffe was the important, writer of the age of Chaucer. Now, coming to John Gower. Now, he is one of the major court poets of 14th century. When you read Chaucer, you'll find out that Chaucer wrote famous Troilus and Cresside. Now, this Troilus and Cresside, Chaucer dedicated to John Gower. Now, the two important works of John Gower are Confessio Amantis and Vox Clementis. You will just remember the names: Confessio Amantis and Vox Clementis. Now, this latter is, that is, Vox Clementis, is a dream allegory. It's a dream allegory in which the poet symbolically presents the pageants' revolt of 1381. Sometimes you have in your examination that which work of John Gower or which work presents the pageants' revolt. So this Vox Clementis, this work also influenced Ruskin. Now, Confessio Amantis is a poem of 8 books, and it satirizes the corruption of the church. Now, this poem is written octosyllabic couplets. So, two important works I have told you of Gower. One is Confessio Amantis, the other is Vox Clementis. Vox Clementis, which symbolically presents the pageants' revolt, and another is on the corruption of the church. Now, when you read the poetry of Gower, you'll find out that Gower's poetry is important for the melody actually and the good craftsmanship. But Gower lacks imagination. The writings of Gower, they do not have Chaucer's humor and narrative and dramatic power. Chaucer is important for his humor. He is important for his narrative and dramatic power. You will read Prologue to the Cantabrites, you will find out. And Gower was more, a moralist. So that is why Gower is not so significant, or the other writers are not so significant as Chaucer is. That I'll tell you the contributions of Chaucer in my next video. Now, coming to William Langland. Now, Langland is important for the vision of William concerning Piers the Plowman. Now, this work you will remember, Piers. In short, you can call it Piers the Plowman. This poem is satire on the contemporary church. In the Middle Ages, there was a lot of corruption in the church. This you will find out in the writing of Chaucer also, that how does Chaucer expose the corruption of the church. And this later on, because of this excessive corruption in the church, a Reformation movement took place. Now this poem is a satire on the contemporary church. This is called the greatest book of social protest in 14th century. Now the entire poetry of Langland is alliterative and it is allegorical in nature. Now coming to this writer John Mandeville. Now it is this work, The Voyage and Travels of Sir John Mandeville Knight. This is actually a travel memoir, and which was circulated between 1357 1371, and authorship is given to Sir John Mandeville. It is one of the most famous and widely read travel romance of Europe. Originally written in Norman French about 1360, and it was translated into 10 major European languages, including English and Latin. Now, it was very popular, and it continued its popularity for around 400 years. And now, in this work, you'll find out that this describes the exotic wonders of the Near and Far East, and is generally considered one of the finest works of imaginative literature of the medieval period. Now, what we have learned in this particular video, that we have discussed about 4 important contemporaries of Chaucer, and I told you how many works they have written and what are the chief characteristics of those works. Thank you very much.